On December 27, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
Thank you for joining me on the Manic Monday edition of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. For today, Monday, October 16th, I'm Donal Ware. Week 7 in HBCU football. Of course, things got kicked off on Thursday night on ESPN2. Benedict all over Fort Valley State, 48-6. And I suspect that once the HBCU media poll is released, whether you're watching to be released today, that the Tigers probably will remain number 3. I would imagine also when the coaches poll is released tomorrow, that the Tigers will be number 1 as well. So that was Thursday's game. Saturday's games, let's run down the schedule. Alabama State keeping its slim hopes alive in the Eastern Division of the SWAC, defeated Jackson State 24-19. And I talked about this a little bit last week that, Jackson State needed to continue to win to really keep probably its playoff hopes alive. And it depends, anything could have happened with Florida A&M. But again, remember, Florida A&M had the head-to-head against Jackson State, but now Alabama State keeps its hopes alive. Maybe Florida A&M slips up. Florida A&M and Alabama State still have to play. Alabama A&M defeated Grambling State 45-24. So it makes things more interesting as we move on in the Western Division. Meanwhile, Alabama A&M in a very similar boat to Alabama State. As a matter of fact, those two teams meet in the Magic City Classic on Saturday, and the winner surely will be out of the race for the Eastern Division. Texas Southern getting its first conference victory, 34-31 over Bethune-Cookman. You never know, right? Like, I know that's only the first conference win for Texas Southern, but in that Western Division, you just really never know. Mississippi Valley State getting its first victory of the season, 42-17 over Arkansas Pine Bluff. It was Prairie View A&M falling to Houston Christian 30-0. Southern over Lincoln of California, 45-18. It was Howard falling to Harvard, 48-7. Don't look now. Tennessee State playing some really good football. We talked about this a little bit on last week. That, listen, it's a non-conference game, but it's an HBCU matchup. I believe it was homecoming in Nashville. If you're Norfolk State, you want to get this victory and get some momentum, at least a little bit, stop a bit of a slide in terms of conference play. And Tennessee State wants to continue its winning ways as it continues on in the Big South OVC Football Conference. South Carolina State fell to Tennessee Tech 28-7. It was North Carolina A&T falling to Delaware 21-6. Hampton fell to Monmouth 61-10. It was Arkansas Baptist falling to Ottawa 83-0 in a bit of an upset. It was a game I talked about last week, and I remember I was saying, hey, if you look at Edward Waters, maybe a shade below in terms of in the conference standings in the SIAC. If you're Tuskegee, you got to win that game. You want to stay in the upper echelon. Well, guess what? Edward Waters wins on a touchdown pass with 0 seconds on the clock, upsets Tuskegee 41-0. 38. It was Central State defeating Savannah State 21-10, first SIAC victory of the season for the Marauders. Johnson C. Smith continues. Again, the loss last week to Shaw bounces back, defeats St. Augustine's 14-6. St. Augustine's, of course, let its head football coach, Howard Fagans, go late last week, but continues to at least fight. And Johnson C. Smith gets another victory. Looking forward to that showdown against Fayetteville State. And looking forward are the Golden Bulls to continuing to challenge for that CIAA Southern Division crown. Lincoln of Pennsylvania, 27, Elizabeth City State 21. Don't look now, but Lincoln of Pennsylvania has a winning record, 4-3, and is 3-2 in conference play. Winston-Salem State keeping its Southern Division hopes alive. Defeated Shaw 41-20. We talked a little bit about this last week. The winner or the loser of this game probably was out in the Southern Division. Virginia of Lynchburg getting its first victory of the season, defeated Fort Lauderdale 42-19. Virginia Union didn't even play around with Bowie State at all. Remains just one back of Virginia State, the Panthers defeated Bowie State 52-3. Clark Atlanta fell to Shorter 19-13. Florida Memorial fell to St. Thomas 31-17. It was Lincoln of Missouri falling to Central Oklahoma 59-17. Kentucky State defeating Lane 21-14. Langston has now won 4 games in a row, defeated North American 40-0. Texas College falling to Louisiana Christian 52-7. Allen in an upset. A bit of an upset. I don't know that I can really call this an upset. Allen had lost the one football game where Albany State was undefeated, had won 4 straight games undefeated in conference play. Well, guess what? Allen defeats now Albany State 39-27. So you had Allen, it was really Allen the next shade below those undefeated teams, and then Edward Waters. And Allen continues to keep its hopes alive in terms of an SIAC championship berth. Fayetteville State, 5 in a row, 5-0 in conference play. The Broncos just get it done, right? Defeated Livingstone 19-14. The Broncos say, just win, baby. May not be pretty, but the Broncos are getting it done. Virginia State remains undefeated on the season. Defeated Bluefield State 39-23. And it was Miles over Morehouse 36-22. Depending upon what time you're watching or listening to this, the HBCU National Players of the Week going to be released on today as well. And of course, you can find that on our website at box2row.com. Listen, this week 7 was had some big games, some big wins for some teams, some tough losses for some other teams as we're on the other side of the midway point, and especially when you're looking at the CIAA and you're looking at the SIAC, only 3 games remain in conference play and teams jockeying for position. You look at the SIAC, you've got Benedict that is on top, no doubt about it right now. But I mean, look, Fort Valley State still got a shot. Tuskegee still has a shot. Miles, still has a shot. Albany State still has a shot. But right now, Benedict obviously is in the driver's seat. I look in the CIAA, it's the Broncos of Fayetteville State right now, although a matchup against Johnson C. Smith. Johnson C. Smith wins that. Now Johnson C. Smith would have the tiebreaker where Winston-Salem State's got an outside shot 2 games back. You still have a matchup between Virginia Union and Virginia State. That game is the last game of the season, so neither team looking ahead there because there's still some tough games remaining for both teams, including Lincoln of Pennsylvania. Wow. I mean, Lincoln is really playing well, 4-3 winning season. I can't remember the last time Lincoln had a winning season or at least at a point, because generally Lincoln always lost its first game of the season, and then it was sort of downhill from there. But I mentioned that quarterback, Isaiah Freeman. I was talking about him last year. He was our HBCU National Player of the Week maybe a couple of weeks ago. He's playing well for the Lions. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. Find us on the Box to Row YouTube channel, as well as listening on boxtorow.com, as well as iHeartMedia.com. You can listen and download as well. I got plenty to talk about on Takeaway Tuesday, so I'll talk with you then.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at boxtorow.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.